What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and in this video, we're going to be going over T-Mobile Revel 4 Plus pros and cons. So let's get started. So these are my 5 favorite things and 5 worst things about the phone. Now I do want to mention, I overall am a big fan of this device. And definitely for the cons that I'll be going over, it is a bit of nitpicking. However, they are still my top 5 least favorite things, and things that maybe they might want to improve on for the next generation of this phone. But before we get into those, let's go over the pros. So coming in at number 1, and that is that we get both a fingerprint sensor on the back, and we get face unlock with the device. So the fingerprint sensor is located pretty much in the top back portion of the phone, and it is very responsive, so no issues there. We'll do that one more time. The placement of the sensor is also very convenient as well, and you can see here in the settings that we do have the face key option. Now for me personally, I'm fine with just using the fingerprint sensor, but if you do want to use face key, or even a combination of both, you do have the ability to do that here with the Revel 4 Plus. My second favorite thing about the device definitely has to be the RAM and processor. Now you've got to keep in mind, the Revel 4 Plus is certainly a budget phone. It has a retail price of $189, and T-Mobile and Metro by T-Mobile are offering this device with a variety of different promos and other deals, so most likely you won't even be paying over $100 for this. Now despite this device's very affordable price tag, we are getting some very impressive internals. So with this phone, we're getting 4GB of RAM and the Qualcomm Snapdragon 665. So the first thing is that I'm definitely glad that we're getting 4GB of RAM. That is a good amount for any phone for that matter. Obviously with the flagships that are out now, you do get quite a bit more RAM. But again, for a budget device, 4GB of RAM is awesome. And then with the processor, the Snapdragon 665, that's the same processor that we do get with the Moto G Power and the Moto G Fast. So those phones both run really well, and my experience with the Revel 4 Plus is that performance with this phone is also very good too. Now I did run a benchmark test with this phone, and I'll show you the score from that right now. I did use an app called Geekbench 5, and I definitely recommend installing it on your current phone to compare your scores to the scores in this phone. Then from there, you'll get a good idea of whether or not this phone is even a performance upgrade. But with the Revel 4 Plus, I got a single core score of 311 and a multi-core of 1386. So again, very solid here for a very affordable smartphone, and definitely compared to other devices being offered by Metro, such as the Galaxy A21 and the LG Stylo 6, you're definitely going to be getting much better performance with the Revel 4 Plus. My third favorite thing about the T-Mobile Revel 4 Plus is the very tall form factor. It might be hard to tell for sure on camera, but this certainly is a very tall phone. Now this device features a 20:9 aspect ratio, and I did have to measure that myself. It is advertised as having 18:9, but this is definitely 20:9. So we're getting a very tall display here, and really the biggest benefit with that is that you'll be able to see more of your social media feed, for example, and also more of a website in a single frame, because in both of those situations you'll be scrolling vertically. So since you're doing a vertical scroll and the display is taller, you'll be able to see more and scroll less, which I feel like is pretty convenient. My fourth favorite thing about the T-Mobile Revel 4 Plus definitely has to be that we're getting NFC here with the phone. Now if you're not familiar with NFC, that makes mobile payments possible, and NFC, surprisingly, even now in 2020, is still kind of difficult to come by in budget phones. I know the Stylo 6 has NFC, and I believe, based on my memory, the A21 also has NFC, but other phones like the Moto G Fast, for example, don't have NFC. So if you do know that you're going to be using NFC, then at least know that you are getting it here with the Revel 4 Plus, despite this phone being very affordable. And for the last pro with this phone, that definitely has to be the battery. So with this device, we're getting a beefy 4,000 milliamp hour internal battery. That's certainly adequate. That is pretty close to the battery capacity of the new Google Pixel 5, which I believe is only slightly larger in capacity, but this is definitely very impressive. Combining that battery with the very power efficient Snapdragon 665, certainly will give you very decent battery life. So you'll have no issues with getting through an entire day, for example, and that's one less thing that you're gonna have to worry about. But now that we've gone over the top 5 pros of the Revel 4 Plus, let's now get into the top 5 cons. Coming in at the first con, that definitely has to be that we're only getting a 720p display here with the phone. Now I do understand in some ways why we have 720p, especially because many other devices that are in the same price range, such as the Galaxy A11, Moto G Fast, and even the Galaxy A21, all have 720p. But still, I think if this display was 1080p, it would look even better. Now thankfully it's not a terrible display, that's for sure. Things still do look pretty crisp and clear, and we're also getting decent colors here as well. But I just know that if this phone did have 1080p, it would make things look even better. My second least favorite thing about the T-Mobile Revel 4 Plus is that 4K video recording is limited for 5 minutes. Now I know that there's gonna be people in the comments that say that they don't even record video in 4K, and the feature really doesn't do much for them anyway. But from a usability perspective, I just feel like the 5-minute limit on 4K video recording certainly makes that feature even less useful on top of it already kind of being a niche feature. Now I believe that might be a limitation with the Snapdragon 665, but I feel like at this point, now that 4K video recording has been around for quite some time, it would be nice if they could find a way that we could record video for longer than 5 minutes in one session. Now coming in at number 3 with this phone is that there's no ultra wide angle camera. Now when I unboxed the phone and I saw that the camera module was squared off like this, I was at first excited because I thought, oh, we're going to be getting a lot of different cameras. And while we do have a very decent main camera and also a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera that does assist with portrait mode, I still really would have liked to have an ultra wide, especially when many of this device's competitors do have an ultra wide angle camera. For example, you can get an ultra wide angle camera with the LG Aristo 5, one of the lowest end devices even being offered by Metro right now. The Moto G Fast is an ultra wide camera. The Galaxy A11 has an ultra wide angle camera. And the Galaxy A21 and LG Stylo 6 all have ultra wide angle cameras as well. So why did they skip out on giving us an ultra wide angle camera with the Revel 4 Plus? That's definitely very frustrating. And if they had given us an ultra wide angle camera, that would have been yet another feature to differentiate this phone from the regular Revel 4. Now coming in at number 4 for the least favorite things about this device, that definitely has to be the bezel and notch. So first, let's talk about the bezel. Now, if you didn't know this, when devices have an LCD display, they do actually have to have a thicker bezel at least somewhere. It is a limitation of that technology, and other devices like the Galaxy A51, for example, which have an AMOLED display, are able to have smaller bezels because they don't have that limitation. But unfortunately, since we do have that LCD display, which actually does look pretty nice, we do have to have a thicker bezel on the bottom. So it would have been nice if that was smaller, but I suppose to make it smaller, we would have to also get an OLED or AMOLED display. Now up top here on the device, we do have a water drop for the front-facing camera. Now that's also not a huge deal, certainly not the end of the world, but I know that the water drop camera was very popular in 2019 and also 2018 and kind of gives this phone more of an old school look. I think if they would have given it a hole punch for the front facing camera and had it situated in either the center, right, or left, it would have made this phone look similar to other devices such as the Google Pixel 4a, Galaxy A21, and in general I feel like it would give it a more modern look, and it would also look even more similar to the Revel 5G. So I feel like with those two design changes, things would look a bit better here with the phone, but again, in general, I feel like the design is perfectly fine. I don't have an issue with it. It's not a deal breaker, but it might be something that you might want to consider. Now, as a side note, I do like this material on the back. It does pick up some fingerprints, but at the same time, I like how it has kind of a wavy look to it, and I really like that it's frosted. It does make this phone look quite unique. And then coming in at my least favorite thing about the T-Mobile Revel 4 Plus, and that is that we have a headphone jack on the top of the phone. Now, I pointed this issue out as well with my pros and cons video for the Revel 5G, but again, let me explain. And also, for the people that are going to say that I should be lucky that this phone even has a headphone jack, pretty much every budget and mid-range phone has a headphone jack. It's really just the flagships that don't. So when I see a headphone jack on a budget phone, I'm not impressed because they all have that. So having the headphone jack on the top of the phone is a bit inconvenient because if you're using the phone like this and you have your headphones sticking out of the top, sometimes the headphones can get in the way of the display. But the biggest issue is that when you want to put the phone in your pocket while also still having your headphones plugged in, if you're holding your phone like this, you typically put your phone in your pocket top down. Now, if you do that, it's going to be awkward having your headphones plugged in, but also having your phone in your pocket top down. And then I don't know if there's anyone like this that actually does this in real life, But I suppose if you put your phone in bottom first, then it does solve all of those issues. But that's a really awkward maneuver to go from holding your phone like this to suddenly having to delicately place it down in your pocket in this direction. Does anyone actually do that? So with that in consideration, it really would make a lot more sense for the headphone jack to be on the bottom of the device versus the top. But these are my pros and cons about the T-Mobile Revel 4 Plus. If I missed out on anything, definitely let me know in the comment section below, and let me know again what you think about the headphone jack being on the top of the phone. Is that something that doesn't bother those of you that are watching, or is it a very important thing? I definitely want to know what you think. But again, thanks for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.